What happens when Hollywood's most respected actor snaps on live television? In just 33 seconds, everything fell apart on The Late Show last night. And what you're about to hear will shock you to your core. If you want daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe what goes down in the industry behind closed doors. The Late Show studio was absolutely packed last night. Every single seat was filled with excited fans who had waited months to get tickets for this taping. The audience was buzzing with anticipation and energy. The cameras were rolling perfectly, and Stephen Colbert was ready to welcome one of the biggest names in Hollywood. The energy in the room was absolutely electric. People were chatting excitedly with each other, checking their phones to make sure they were ready to capture every moment, adjusting in their seats to get the best view of what they thought would be an amazing interview. The warm-up comedian had already gotten everyone loose and laughing. Everything felt perfect. Denzel Washington walked onto that stage with his usual confidence, that unmistakable movie star swagger that only he can pull off after decades in the business. He was wearing a perfectly tailored navy blue suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, with a crisp white shirt and a burgundy tie. He waved to the crowd as they went absolutely crazy for him. The applause was deafening, thunderous, overwhelming. People were on their feet screaming, clapping so hard their hands must have hurt. Some were even crying because they were so excited to see him in person. This is Denzel Washington we're talking about, an absolute legend of cinema, a two-time Oscar winner, one of the most respected actors on the entire planet. His presence alone commands respect. Everyone in that studio thought this was going to be another fun, light-hearted conversation about his latest projects and his incredible career spanning multiple decades. Maybe some funny stories from set, some behind-the-scenes anecdotes about working with other famous actors, the kind of entertaining stuff that makes for great television, the kind of interview that people enjoy watching with their families over dinner. But they had absolutely no idea what was coming. Nobody in that room could have predicted what was about to unfold on that stage, in front of millions of viewers. Colbert started things off like he always does, with some jokes and small talk to warm things up. They laughed about the crazy weather New York was having, about Denzel's flight into the city earlier that day, about how insane the traffic was getting to the studio. The audience ate it up, laughing at every joke. Then they talked about Denzel's new movie for several minutes. Denzel described the complex character he played, talked about the experience of working with the acclaimed director, shared a genuinely funny story about a particular scene that took 17 takes to get right, because someone kept messing up their lines. Everything seemed completely normal and comfortable. The audience was laughing at all the right moments. Denzel was smiling and charming everyone in the room like he always does, and it honestly looked like just another night of good quality television entertainment. Colbert asked about the intense physical training Denzel did for the role, and Denzel talked enthusiastically about the preparation process, the research he conducted, the accent work he did with a dialect coach. It was all very standard talk show material. Safe, comfortable, predictable. Exactly what everyone in that audience expected and wanted. But then Colbert shifted gears dramatically, and the way he did it felt calculated, deliberate, like he'd been waiting for just the right moment to pounce. "So, Denzel, I've got to ask you about something that's been on my mind," Colbert said, leaning forward in his chair, with that particular look he gets when he's about to dig into something deeper and more serious. "There's been quite a bit of talk online about some comments you made a few months back regarding the current state of Hollywood and some of the, let's say, political stances that actors are expected to take these days. It's been creating a significant amount of buzz on social media and in various circles." The smile on Denzel's face didn't disappear immediately, but you could see it change in real time. It became tighter, more guarded, less genuine. You could literally feel the energy in the entire room change instantly, like someone had suddenly dropped the temperature by 10 degrees. The audience, which had been so warm and engaged just seconds before, suddenly got noticeably quieter. People sensed that something was different about this moment, that the tone had shifted. Denzel shifted his position in his seat and looked directly at Colbert with an intensity that wasn't there before. The friendly, relaxed energy between them evaporated in seconds. "What comments are those exactly, Stephen?" Denzel asked, his voice still calm on the surface, but with a definite edge underneath it. His body language changed, too. He sat up straighter, his shoulders squared, his posture becoming more defensive. Colbert pulled out a printed piece of paper from under his desk, which immediately felt like a setup to anyone paying attention. Who even prints things out anymore in this digital age? The fact that he had it ready to go, that he'd prepared this moment, suggested he'd been planning this confrontation all along. "Well, you said in a podcast interview that actors should shut up and act when it comes to politics, and that Hollywood has become too preachy in recent years. A lot of people took serious issue with that statement, considering you've spoken out passionately on social issues yourself over the years. Some people online have called it hypocritical." The audience got really quiet. Like, painfully, uncomfortably quiet. You could hear individual people shifting in their seats, the sound of someone's phone buzzing against their leg, a nervous cough from someone in the back row. The cameras immediately zoomed in on both men's faces, capturing every micro-expression. Denzel stared at Colbert for what felt like forever, like he was deciding exactly how to respond, before finally speaking. "First of all, Stephen, that's not exactly what I said in context," Denzel replied carefully, his voice getting noticeably firmer, more deliberate with each word. "And second, I'm genuinely curious why you're choosing to bring this particular topic up right now, at this specific moment. What does this have to do with my movie? What does this have to do with anything we've been discussing for the past 10 minutes? Colbert did that nervous laugh thing he does sometimes, trying desperately to keep things light, trying to make it seem like this was all just part of a normal conversation. "Well, I think it's relevant because your new movie deals with some pretty heavy themes about justice and morality, about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. And people watching at home are curious about where you stand personally on these kinds of issues, in real life, not just in your films." "Where I stand," Denzel interrupted sharply. And when Denzel Washington interrupts someone, people definitely notice. His voice cut through Colbert's words like a hot knife through butter. "Stephen, with all due respect, and I mean that sincerely, I came here tonight to talk about a film that took 3 years of my life to make, that has an incredible cast and crew who poured their hearts and souls into it, who worked 16-hour days to create something meaningful, and you're ambushing me with some twisted, out-of-context version of something I said months ago, in a completely different setting? Is that really what this interview has become?" The word ambushing hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Everyone in that studio felt it. You could see Colbert's expression change immediately. He knew this wasn't going the way he'd planned in his pre-interview meetings. He tried to backtrack, tried desperately to smooth things over. No, Denzel, I'm not ambushing you at all. That's absolutely not what this is," Colbert said quickly, his voice getting slightly higher. "I'm just asking a question that I think a lot of people watching at home want to know the answer to. You're one of the most influential actors in the entire world. Your voice carries enormous weight in our culture. And what, Stephen?" Denzel cut him off again, and this time his voice was noticeably louder, more forceful. "And you think you can put words in my mouth on your show? You think you can sit there with your little printed paper, with your pre-planned gotcha moment that you discussed with your producers backstage, and tell me what I believe? Tell me what I actually meant when I said something months ago in a completely different context with different people?" The audience was now completely, utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that studio floor. Some people looked genuinely uncomfortable, like they desperately wanted to be anywhere else but trapped in that studio. Others had their phones out and raised, clearly recording what was happening. knowing instinctively that they were witnessing something absolutely crazy unfold in real time. This was going completely and totally off the rails, and everyone in that room could feel it happening. Colbert was trying his absolute best to maintain his composure, to keep control of his own show, but you could see the cracks forming in his professional facade. His smile was completely gone now. Denzel, I honestly think you're misunderstanding what I'm trying to accomplish here. No, Stephen. I understand perfectly, Denzel said, his voice rising steadily with each word he spoke. I understand exactly what this is. You want me to either defend something I didn't actually say in the way you're presenting it, or you want me to apologize on national television for having an opinion that doesn't perfectly match whatever specific narrative you're trying to push on this show tonight. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Am I wrong? Colbert's face was visibly turning red now. You could see the color rising in his cheeks. That's not fair at all, Denzel. That's not what I'm doing here, and you know it. I'm trying to have an honest, meaningful conversation here. A real dialogue about important issues that affect all of us as Americans. Honest? Denzel actually laughed out loud, but there was absolutely zero humor in it whatsoever. It was cold, bitter, sharp as a razor blade. There's nothing honest about this ambush, Stephen. Nothing at all. You brought me onto your show under the false pretense of promoting a movie, of having a nice friendly chat about my work and career. And now, you're actively trying to create some kind of manufactured controversy for your ratings. Don't sit there and act like I don't see exactly what this is. I've been doing this way too long to fall for these games. You could see something fundamental shift in Colbert's expression. The friendly late-night host mask was slipping away completely. You know what, Denzel? I've respected you for years. I've admired your work since I was a kid, watching you in Malcolm X in Philadelphia. I've looked up to you as an artist and as a person who stands for something. But you don't get to come on my show and accuse me of being dishonest. You don't get to sit in that chair and question my integrity in front of my audience and millions of viewers at home. I asked you a perfectly legitimate question based on something you said publicly, on the record, in an interview that millions of people heard with their own ears. If you can't handle that, if you can't handle someone asking you direct questions about your own words, maybe you shouldn't be giving interviews at all. The audience gasped collectively, like audibly gasped out loud in pure shock. It was like a wave of absolute disbelief went through the entire studio all at once. Someone in the crowd said, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to pick it up clear as day. Another person said, "This is insane." People were looking at each other with wide eyes, mouths hanging open, not believing what they were witnessing unfold on live television right in front of them. That's when everything went from bad to infinitely worse. Denzel stood up from his chair. Not quickly or dramatically at first, but deliberately, with clear purpose and intention. He unbuttoned his suit jacket in that slow, measured, controlled way that somehow felt more threatening than if he'd jumped up. He looked down at Colbert with an expression that could genuinely freeze fire. His eyes were intense, focused, absolutely burning with controlled anger. "Can't handle it?" Denzel said slowly, his voice dropping lower but somehow becoming even more powerful and commanding. "You think I can't handle tough questions, Stephen? Let me tell you something, and I want you to listen carefully. I've been in this industry for over 40 years, 40 years of my life. I've dealt with critics who said I'd never make it as a leading man. I've dealt with studios who tried to lowball me and disrespect me because of the color of my skin. I've dealt with directors who thought they could push me around on set. I've dealt with racism, with prejudice, with people who fundamentally didn't want to see a black man succeed and thrive in Hollywood. And you think you're going to sit there in your comfortable chair, in your safe little studio, and tell me what I can and can't handle? Really?" Colbert stood up too, which was honestly a huge mistake on his part. Now they were both standing, facing each other across the desk. "I'm not telling you anything except that you need to take accountability for the things you say in public. You can't just say whatever you want in interviews and then get defensive and angry when someone asks you about it later. Accountability? Denzel's voice got even louder, more forceful. You want to talk about accountability, Stephen? How about you take accountability for deliberately twisting people's words to fit your predetermined agenda? How about you take accountability for turning what should have been an honest conversation about art and film into some cheap, manufactured political gotcha moment for your viewers? The two men were facing each other now, both standing tall, both clearly angry, both refusing to back down an inch. The audience genuinely didn't know what to do with themselves. Some people were still recording on their phones, capturing every second. Others looked like they desperately wanted to leave the studio, but were trapped in their seats. Colbert pointed his finger directly at Denzel, which felt aggressive. You know what? I think we need to take a commercial break right now. No, Denzel said firmly, his voice like steel. We're not taking a damn commercial break. We're going to finish this conversation right here, right now. Colbert's producers were frantically gesturing from offstage, waving their arms, trying desperately to get control of the rapidly deteriorating situation, but neither man was paying any attention to them or backing down even slightly. Denzel, you need to calm down right now, Colbert said, which was absolutely the worst possible thing he could have said in that moment. Calm down? Denzel repeated, his voice incredulous, almost laughing at the audacity. Don't you dare tell me to calm down, Stephen. You started this. You brought me out here under false pretenses. You asked your loaded question with your little printed paper that you prepared backstage, and now you want me to just calm down because it's not going the way you carefully planned? Because you're losing control of your own show? Colbert threw his hands up in frustration, his composure completely gone. Fine. You want to do this? Let's really do this then. You said actors should stay out of politics, but you've been talking about social issues for years now. You've given powerful speeches about racism, about inequality, about police brutality in America. So which is it, Denzel? Are actors supposed to shut up and just entertain people? Or are they supposed to speak out? Or does it only count when it's something you personally agree with? The audience was in complete shock. Every single person in that studio. This had gone from uncomfortable to genuinely hostile in just seconds. Denzel stepped even closer to Colbert's desk, closing the distance between them. You really don't get it, do you? You fundamentally don't understand the distinction. There's a massive difference between speaking authentically about real issues that actually affect people's lives and being a trained puppet for whatever political party is paying attention that week. There's a difference between having genuine convictions that come from lived experience and performing outrage for applause and social media likes. But you wouldn't know anything about that difference, would you, Stephen? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Colbert shot back aggressively. It means you sit behind this desk every single night and you preach to people. You tell them how to think, who to vote for, what to believe, how to feel about every issue. And God forbid anyone has a different opinion than you, because then you bring them on your show and you try to embarrass them in front of millions of people watching at home. Colbert's jaw visibly clenched. That is not what I do on this show. That's exactly what you do. Denzel raised his voice even more. And the truly sad part is, you probably don't even realize it anymore. You think you're always on the right side of every single issue, so that gives you the right to talk down to anyone who sees things even slightly differently than you do. I don't talk down to anyone, Colbert said defensively, but his tone betrayed him. You're literally doing it right now. Denzel gestured at him with both hands. You've been condescending since the very moment you asked that first question. You've had this smug look on your face like you finally caught me in some kind of contradiction. Well, I'm not contradicted, Stephen. I'm completely consistent. I believe in using your platform for genuine good, but I also believe in respecting people enough to let them form their own opinions without being constantly lectured every 5 seconds by celebrities who think they're smarter than everyone else. The tension in that studio was absolutely suffocating. Everyone watching this unfold in real time was on edge, not knowing if they should intervene or just let it play out to its conclusion. Colbert took a visible breath, trying desperately to regain some semblance of control over his own show. Denzel, I think we're both getting way too heated here. Maybe we should what, Stephen? Pretend this didn't just happen? Smile for the cameras and act like everything's perfectly fine? Go to commercial and come back and laugh it off? Denzel shook his head firmly. No, absolutely not. I'm done pretending. I'm done with these completely fake conversations where everyone has to walk on eggshells and say exactly the right things to make everyone comfortable and not offend anyone. Nobody asked you to walk on eggshells here, Colbert said, his voice terse. Really? Because that's all anyone does in Hollywood anymore. Everyone's absolutely terrified of saying the wrong thing, of offending the wrong person, of not being woke enough or progressive enough, or whatever the hell the standard is this particular week. And you know what happens when people are that scared all the time? They stop being honest. They stop being real human beings. They become exactly what you accused me of earlier. They perform. They put on a show. Colbert's patience was clearly and completely running out. You know what, Denzel? If you hate Hollywood so much, if you hate these interviews so much, if you hate everything about this industry, then why the hell are you even here? Why did you agree to come on my show in the first place? Denzel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. That's a fantastic question, Stephen. And after tonight, after this absolute disaster, I'm asking myself the exact same thing. I genuinely thought I was coming here to have a real substantive conversation with someone I respected, someone I thought had integrity, someone who's been in this business long enough to understand nuance and context. But instead, I got ambushed by someone desperately looking for a viral moment to boost their ratings. That's complete bullshit and you know it, Colbert snapped, dropping his TV-friendly language. Is it really? Denzel fired back immediately. Then why did you print out that quote beforehand? Why did you save it for the middle of the interview instead of asking me about it up front? You deliberately wanted to catch me off guard. You wanted to create exactly this moment we're having right here, right now. Colbert's face was bright red now, almost purple. You're being paranoid. Am I? Or am I just seeing things clearly for the first time? You're all the same. You, the other late-night hosts, the journalists, the bloggers, everyone in the media. Everyone's constantly looking for their gotcha moment. Everyone wants to be the one who takes down somebody big, somebody respected. Well, congratulations, Stephen. You got your moment. I hope it was worth it. The two men stared at each other intensely, neither one backing down even an inch. The silence was absolutely deafening. You could feel the tension radiating through the entire studio. Then Denzel did something that nobody in that audience expected. He reached up slowly and unclipped the small microphone from his lapel, pulled it off his expensive shirt, and dropped it deliberately on Colbert's desk with a loud thud that echoed through the silent studio. I'm done here, Denzel said quietly, but his voice carried through the entire space. Denzel, wait. Colbert started, finally realizing how bad this looked, but Denzel held up his hand to stop him. No, I'm not waiting. I'm not doing this anymore. You wanted honesty, Stephen? Here's complete honesty. This whole thing is a joke. These interviews, these talk shows, they're all just elaborate performances. Nobody actually cares about having real, meaningful conversations anymore. They just want sound bites and clicks and something to argue about on Twitter for the next 24 hours. Colbert tried one more time, his voice softer. Denzel, please, let's just... I said, I'm done, Stephen. Denzel's voice was absolutely final. He turned to face the shocked audience, most of whom were sitting there with their mouths literally hanging open. I apologize to all of you for this. You came here for entertainment, for a fun night out, and instead you got whatever this disaster was. That's not fair to you. Then he turned back to face Colbert one final time. His voice was cold. And Stephen, Next time you want to have an actual conversation with someone, try actually listening to them, instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. Try having some respect. With that, Denzel Washington turned on his heel and walked off the stage. Just walked right off, without looking back. The cameras followed him as he headed toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the completely silent studio. The audience sat frozen, not knowing whether they should clap, stay quiet, or just leave themselves. Colbert stood there behind his desk, completely stunned, his face pale. His producers were shouting things from off stage, probably screaming at him to cut to commercial, but he just stood there watching Denzel leave, seemingly unable to process what had just happened. The last image before the cameras finally cut away was Denzel pushing through the backstage door and disappearing into the hallway beyond, leaving behind the most explosive, shocking talk show moment in recent television history.